Hey guys, so this was finals week for me, but I just turned in my last final, so I can finally relax a little bit, though I still have other things that I'm worrying about. But I figured I'd make my video now. This week's video is about testosterone, which I've been on for, I guess, about 2.5 years, but on and off. I haven't always been able to afford it. I haven't always wanted to stab myself with a needle. But I've had a decent amount of changes. I think one of the first changes I saw was I noticed my voice changing. I didn't notice it at first until I recorded myself and then listened to it. And it was kind of unbelievable how much my voice had changed. I saw a little bit of facial hair growing in at first. I've still got, I can't grow that much, but I just shaved a little bit this morning. Um, I've got the most ridiculous sideburns that are like, really, like the hair is really long, but it also doesn't grow in some places, so I can't grow sideburns like I'd like them. That was one of the biggest things that I was looking forward to, was sideburns. And I'm really happy about the extent to which I've been able to grow them, but like clearly I would like them to be more visible and to actually grow in without weird gaps. Um, I think probably my voice and the sideburns were the two things that I was looking most forward to, so I was really glad to see those happen relatively quickly. Um, Growth was also something that I was looking for, and something that I got. Um, I haven't gotten a lot of fat redistribution, which was a little bit upsetting at first, but I started T essentially through informed consent. I had one meeting with a psychologist just to make sure that I was ready to potentially go to a support group or therapy of some kind if it turned out that transition um, didn't work the way I wanted it to, if I, wanted certain outcomes and wasn't getting them and didn't necessarily know how to deal with that. And I think that's the best way to go about that sort of thing. I wish there were informed consent clinics everywhere. Um, but as it stands, there's a lot of, especially in Tennessee where I am, I've found one doctor who is willing to continue prescribing me testosterone because I was able to go to him and say, I have been on it for, a year or whatever it was by the time I went to him. But I've heard from other people who went to him in the first place and had been told that his office was informed consent as far as starting T was concerned, and then that's not the case. So I think that there definitely need to be more informed consent clinics with doctors who say, therapy is probably a good idea, but not as a condition of starting. Maybe, keep it in mind for, at any point in your transition, or starting it at the same time as you start T, but not saying if you decide you don't want to go, if you go to one appointment, go to one support group meeting and decide you don't want to go back, you can still go on T, provided you sign the informed consent form and know what to expect and know that not everything happens for everyone and not everything happens in the same order. That's a big thing for me. I see a lot of people posting about, when you start T at 2 months, this will probably happen, and at 6 months, this will happen. Or even people saying, well, I can't tell you when it'll happen, but I can tell you the order. No, you can't. It really, really varies by person and by dose and by method and everything. So I would say if you want to start, ask people in your community who they go to. Even if a doctor is somebody that someone went to with a letter, still get in touch with them and see if they do informed consent, or if you feel like it would make the most sense for you to go to therapy and get a letter, get that sign off from a professional, then that's fine too. But I know there are a lot of guys who don't like the idea of having to go through this gatekeeping for something that they don't see as a psychological condition. And I know that I was that way. I was perfectly willing to get a letter at first. I went to one psychologist who did not even begin to want to help me. And I just realized that, by the time I was 19, by the time I was going to the clinic in DC where I started, I figured out what was going on with me when I was 14 or 15. I thought through it to a ridiculous extent. I thought too much about it, probably. So by that point, I just had it sorted out, and I didn't need somebody to confirm who I was for me. Um, Another thing people don't think about is that I think some people think only endocrinologists can prescribe it, but you can go to just a regular physician. Um, if you already have a physician, try going to them, talking about it. Um, a lot of physicians will say, well, I've never done this before and I don't know how to do it safely, but there's a lot of resources out there. Nick Gorton, for example, I'll put a link to his sort of book/booklet. It's basically something you can give to healthcare professionals who say, well, I want to help you, but I don't know enough about it. His resource has so much in there that, if your doctor takes a look at it, they will be, prepared to monitor your testosterone. I think it's just about, not necessarily about finding somebody who has a ton of experience with it, but finding somebody who is supportive and willing to learn, because it's not too difficult if they're already a doctor. If they just make the effort and really want to help you and want to learn about it, want to know how to do it, to the extent of doctors who've been doing it for years, then it can be done. So that's probably the advice I would give. If there's an informed consent clinic in your area, go there. If there's not, just look for a doctor, and it might be a longer process than having an informed consent clinic, but it's better than nothing. So, and then also I guess I wanted to talk a little bit about non-transitioning folks. I guess all I have to say about that is that while I decided to medically transition, while I decided to start hormones, I don't think that my path is any more legitimate than anyone else's, and that just happens to be what was best for me. If you don't feel like it's best for you, don't feel like your identity isn't as legitimate as someone else's, and don't feel pressured to want it or to do it just because most of the other people in your community are doing it. I think there needs to be more education out there about, especially for non-trans people. I tell non-trans people, yeah, there are some trans people who don't medically transition, but their identities still need to be respected in the exact same way as mine, and they're just shocked and confused. And I think as far as policies surrounding trans people, as far as policies surrounding changing documents and things like that, they don't take non-transitioning trans folks into account at all, and I think that's terrible. And I always, speak up on behalf of that part of the community whenever talking about policies and things like that. So, I guess that's it. It's really hot in here. It's like 90 degrees today. It's unbelievable. I hate hot weather. But yeah, I'm gonna go upload this video, and I hope you enjoyed it.